Caught my girlfriend cheating, but her excuse was unbelievable. I never thought I'd be one of those people writing about infidelity, but here I am. A 28 male, have been with my partner 26 female for 5 years. I thought we had a great relationship, good communication, shared goals, and what I thought was mutual respect. Turns out I was wrong. A couple of weeks ago, I noticed she was being weird with her phone. She never used to be secretive, but now it was either glued to her hand, flipped over on the table, or tucked away in her bag. I didn't think much of it at first because I trusted her, but the signs started piling up. She'd stay late at work more often, disappear for hours on weekends, and when I'd ask her about it, she'd get defensive. The breaking point came last week. She said she was going to a friend's house, but didn't come home until 2 a.m. Something just didn't feel right, so I did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone while she was in the shower. There it was, texts with some guy named Tom. Flirty messages, heart emojis, plans to meet up. I felt sick to my stomach. One message stood out. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. When she came out of the shower, I confronted her. She looked panicked but quickly tried to play it cool. And then she hit me with the excuse of the century. It's not what it looks like. I'm helping him practice flirting because he's bad at talking to women. I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh or say she was kidding, but she was dead serious. I couldn't believe she thought I'd buy that. I asked her about the "last night was amazing" text, and she doubled down, saying they were acting out scenarios. At that point, I told her to pack a bag and leave. She begged me to let her explain more, but I couldn't listen to any more lies. Now I'm here, trying to process everything. How do you stay with someone who can look you in the eye and lie like that? Part of me misses her, but the other part feels like I don't even know who she is anymore. So yeah, Reddit, that's my story. Any advice on how to move on from this? And has anyone else heard an excuse as ridiculous as this? Now for the top advice. Yeah, that's pretty laughable. She's for the streets. She's also for someone else's sheets. Text Tom, if you have his number, and her and say, she is all yours. I broke up with her. Glad I did because you were not the only one. Now, if you don't have his number, go on your socials and make fun of her excuse for why you broke up. Say, I cannot believe what she said, laugh about it, and end with, looking forward to being single, tagging her in the post. That's as good as my friend's ex-fiancé's. He didn't mean to have sex with another woman. Her reply was, what happened? Did you trip and your penis fell into her? His response was, it's not what you think. She was laughing so hard when she called to tell me that she caught her ex in the act with another woman. I thought she was kidding because of how hard she was laughing. She told me it was true, and that it was the easiest breakup she's ever had. Wow, that is a bold lie. Oh my God, that must have been so hard to hear. What a punch in the gut. How to move on? Focus on yourself. Get a new hobby. Take a class. Go on a trip. Hang out with friends you haven't seen in a long time. Buy some new clothes. Move to a new apartment if you rent. Change your life and fill it up with so many things that you're creating new memories so you don't keep thinking about her. Time will make you forget her, but sometimes it takes a while. The more you fill up your life with other things, the faster it will go. Of course, if it was a really bad breakup, you may need some therapy. You don't want to fill up your time so much that you don't heal your wounds. I'm sorry you're going through this. Infidelity sucks. Next story. She slept with someone else and told me that it's not cheating, saying, I said I wasn't seeing anyone. That doesn't mean I can't sleep with people. Female 32 and male 32. We dated for 3 years, broke up, and then several months later, she told me she couldn't imagine her life without me. We aren't official, but I asked her, and you're not seeing anyone anymore, right? She said she was off dating apps and had ended things with the other guy. She started talking about marriage. We spent so much time together. A month and a half later, she went to visit friends for New Year's. One of the people there was a friend she had hooked up with a couple of times during our break. I didn't know this. He wanted more. She didn't. They went to a concert, got high up on K, and slept together. She got pregnant and told me yesterday that she's aborting. I'm so hurt. She's showing some remorse but saying it's not cheating because we're not in a relationship. I feel like it's pretty clear that when we agreed not to date other people, it meant no sex with others. Is this inaccurate? More context. We'll call her Amy. I've always wanted to adopt. I wanted to do it with a partner, but in my 20s, I was dealing with some serious insecurities, and it bled into a lot of my relationships. So things kept falling apart. In my late 20s, I decided to get involved with a group called CASA, working with neglect cases. My plan was to understand the system, get into fostering, and eventually adopt. Then I met Amy. She was fun, pretty, smart, responsible, and a hippie. Big plus for me. Responsible hippies are tough to come by. We hit it off quickly. Her kids came into my life a few months later, and over the years, we bonded. I became a better person with them. I think I always knew I would with kids in my life. They have been a very positive part of my life. Things were good, but Amy and I kept circling around the same issues. We decided we needed to take a break, which ended up being no contact over the summer. I took this time as an opportunity for serious personal growth, therapy, journaling, books, meditation, etc. It was painful, but worth it. A couple of months later, we talked again. She didn't want a relationship. It hurt, but I decided I loved those girls, so we agreed I'd have them once a week. The girls and I made a lot of good memories these last few months. We've become closer than ever. Amy and I started hanging out too. Eventually, she's told me she missed me. She was impressed by who I had become. We started working through our problems. Things were going well. That's where things were before the above happened. You don't have to stay with her based on a technicality. If she did something that you thought she should have known better than to do, then leave the relationship. It's a lot harder to be walked on when you are standing up. I love that. I've never heard that before, but I'm gonna start using that. Thanks, Bill. She started talking about marriage. That implies she was exclusive with you. Why would you start talking about marriage with someone if you are not exclusive with that person? So yes, she cheated. Also, it would be best for you to break up with her definitively. She cannot be trusted. Replies like these actually miss the point and further enable her argument. The point isn't whether it was technically cheating or not. Cheating means different things in all kinds of relationships. The technical definition does not matter. If you argue based on, was it technically cheating, you end up with all these BS posts like, she said it's not cheating because she was imagining it was me. Am I wrong? What matters is she broke your trust. Can you trust her not to do this again? Do you want to be with someone who's going to rulebook referee your relationship? If not, move on. She can think it wasn't cheating if you want. If it's important, when asked why you broke up, you don't have to say she cheated. You can just say she got knocked up by some other guy. Regardless of the terms and conditions of a break, this one isn't a positive contribution to your life. You deserve better. I like this. It's a simplistic approach. It doesn't rely on technicalities or semantics. It's simply recognizing that the person is not a positive contribution to your life and you deserve better. Next story. Caught a guy in my girlfriend's bed last night, 26 female and 24 male. So last night, my girlfriend and I were in a bit of an argument that she initiated. Afterward, I just bit my tongue and apologized to her, but she completely ignored the apology and went on about something else. The argument was about how I didn't feel comfortable with her hanging out alone in her room with this guy, especially after he had made some uncomfortable verbal advances toward her. Later that night, she told me she understood and wouldn't have him in her room alone anymore. But when she went MIA for 2 hours, I got a little curious, and something deep inside me kept telling me to go over to her house. It was like an echoing voice in the back of my head saying, go to her house. So eventually, after I got off my second job, I went over to her house. As I pulled into her driveway, she texted me, saying she had been reading a book. I responded casually, "Okay, that's cool. I hope you're enjoying the book." Right after I sent that last text, I walked into her room and there he was. This guy we had just discussed, laid up in her bed. She tried to say his ribs were broken and that he needed help. But she's not a nurse or a doctor. So I'm like, WTF? Why would his friends drop him off at her house? Why not take him to the hospital? He could have internal bleeding or something serious. Obviously, I was upset and losing my mind. He started talking smack to me, and I ended up threatening him, but I didn't hurt anyone. She just kept saying he couldn't afford the hospital, but come on. If his ribs are broken, he's eventually going to have to go to a hospital. The whole situation was suspicious from the start, especially since she had just told me she wouldn't have this guy in her room alone anymore. Then she texted me, saying she knows she messed up for not telling me, but she wasn't sorry for it. So I broke up with her right then and there. Mind you, she has a habit of lying to me about various things. Each time I've broken up with her over something like this, she has crawled back to me, begging for me to take her back and acting like she's changed. But at this point, I'm so mentally and emotionally exhausted and drained that I don't even want to eat or work. For the last month, I've only been eating once a day because of the deep depression she's caused me. How do I move on and heal? I recently recovered from broken ribs. You know what you don't do? Drive, cuddle, effing move in any direction because it hurts. Walk away. She's a terrible person and a bad liar. For real. I fell out of a tree as a kid and bruised my ribs, and I could barely do anything. I can't even imagine what breaking them would feel like. No way he was moving around and cuddling if he was actually that injured. Fractured one by jumping out of a tree and hitting a branch on the way down, and it was so painful when I landed I could barely breathe. She's not your girlfriend. Lol. Obviously not anymore since I seen that. Young man, you need to move on. You don't want to marry someone who constantly lies. I've had broken ribs, and there's nothing the doctors can do about it. They just wrap your chest, and then they heal on their own. She apparently likes the attention if this guy has been flirting with her. Maybe it's innocent, but most likely, it's going to end up as an affair. Next story. I'm, male 37, lost. My wife, female 37, is now a gay witch. I feel awful sharing this, but I am running out of ideas. My wife and I have been married for almost 15 years, and I feel like I'm in an impossible spot. We've changed so much. Pre-kids, it was as you would imagine, just growing up together and figuring out life. Truly, we were each other's person and best friend. We both came out of religiously traumatic experiences and vowed to keep growing and working through it. Growing as individuals has always been a common goal, and we champion that for each other. However, I'm uncomfortable with where things are going. For context, she became very depressed after our second child was born over 7 years ago. She realized she didn't want to be a mom and developed crippling depression. She was in bed for days, unable to take care of our kids or work. I worked hard to get her the care she needed through therapy and a psychiatrist, as well as taking on full parental responsibilities. And I was fine with that. I didn't resent her. I just wanted her to get better. After a few years, she started to come back and participate in the family, and I was thrilled to see the person I had married again. A big part of her depression was also triggered by her religious trauma. She was raised in a cult-like environment, where she didn't have autonomy over herself until we got married. I have always championed her in finding herself. So here is where it starts getting strange for me. She began exploring more of herself and came out to me as gay, but maybe bi, because she was still very into sex with me. Okay, I thought to myself, I'm not sure what to do with that. Then a few months later, she continued her journey of self-discovery and told me she is a witch and believes she has psychic abilities. Wait, what? I want to be supportive of her journey, but honestly, I am just thrown way off. But the thing that really ticked me off was the next revelation. She had a work conference she was preparing to attend, but right before she left, she suffered a minor stroke. It was terrifying. I thought I almost lost her. It was the worst experience I've ever had. Fortunately, she was okay and would make a full recovery. In discussing her situation with a neurologist, they asked if she was on any antidepressants, which she was, or so I thought. I found out afterward that she had stopped taking them for a couple of months. When I asked why, she didn't want to tell me at first, but eventually admitted that the work conference wasn't actually a work conference. It was a guided LSD session for some healing ritual. Like WTF. She wasn't going to tell me until after, because she knew I wouldn't approve. I am just so lost. I don't know who this person is anymore. I know that when people grow, they change, but this just feels like too much. 1. You've admitted to yourself you're gay. Cool, no problem. We can figure out what to do. 2. You say you're a witch and have psychic abilities. Okay, I think that's silly and don't believe in that stuff, but let's see where it goes. 3. You were dishonest about doing illegal drugs. I feel bad making a decision to leave now because she just had a stroke and depends on me for everything financially. But what the hell? I don't know this person anymore. The claims of having psychic abilities and sudden personality changes sound like she might be having a secondary mental health crisis, especially if she stopped her medication. She needs to see her doctor. She is back on them. As far as I was aware, she was only off them for a couple months. Even with the medication, she seems convinced. That's why I think there's a secondary mental health crisis happening. Antidepressants aren't going to stop psychosis if she actually has an underlying bipolar or schizoaffective disorder. The change almost sounds like mania. Could also be something more physical, especially after seeing she'd had a stroke. That would be my main concern. It's really a shame she didn't or couldn't fully figure all this stuff out before having kids. But I guess the second kid triggered it. Sometimes having kids makes you feel like you're not in control of your own life. You're living for someone else. And ding ding ding, that's exactly the kind of feeling she had when she was in the cult. Spot on. The pressure to get married young was part of the religious system we both came from. Really wish we had more people around us to provide this wisdom. Last story. My 28-year-old male husband cheated on me, 27-year-old female, and I understand why. Can we make this work? I can't believe I'm writing this post, but here I am. My husband cheated on me after being together for 8 years. We have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. I know there are no excuses for it. I could never have imagined in my life staying with a cheater. But here I am, wanting to forgive and try to make this work. I know this is not my fault, but I have not been affectionate at all. There are weeks that go by where we don't even kiss or hug each other. We have definitely been in roommate mode for a while. He is 100% of the time the one who initiates any kind of intimacy, and I turn him down 9 out of 10 times. The only reason I have is that I just don't feel like it. He came crying to me today, confessing that he slept with someone 2 weeks ago. Without writing out the long story of how it came about, this was a one-night stand. He had no prior or past contact with this woman. He is begging me to give him a second chance. I am more upset thinking about losing my family than the act of cheating itself, which is so crazy to me. Is it even worth it? Can a relationship ever work after this? Y'all need counseling, not Reddit. Get through that together before you make your next step. Agreed. Individual and couples counseling. My husband had a 6-month affair. I was depressed for years, and we ended up in a similar situation as OP. After 5 to 6 months of individual counseling, we started couples therapy. To OP, it can work as long as both parties are willing to put in the effort to repair themselves and the marriage. Good luck, and I 100% get where you're coming from. I too used to say I would never stay with a cheater. But here I am. Counseling makes a world of difference, and both have to be willing to go the mile. Yep, and maybe counseling will lead them to divorce, because the problem is bigger than just the cheating since their relationship was failing before that. OP needs to figure out why she doesn't want intimacy, and if she will want intimacy again. And if the answer is no, then her husband has to decide if he wants to stay in a sexless marriage.